Science!
All right, science this week, D-Man. We're staying on Earth. There was some cool space news, but this actually came across the newswire a couple weeks ago, and I shelved it for just an upcoming episode and felt it would work well with this episode. It deals with archaeology, one of our other favorite topics in the science segment. Two short stories, actually. There has been an ancient Mayan altar found, very, very ancient, and new info about a big cat trade in the ancient times of the Mayan and Incans.
Like they were like, here's my fluffy cat for your fluffy cat.
Yes.
Really?
and basically, so I want to start off by saying I just completed the brand new Tomb Raider game, Shadow the Tomb Raider.
You beat it already?
I beat the shit out of it, yeah.
Wow, what a lame game that must have been.
No, it was 30 hours. It was good.
30 hours?
Yeah, I know, Fallout, you're in there forever. But it was so cool. You're running around in ancient Mayan temples and Incan temples and stuff like that. So, like, that got me already on this. And then I saw these kind of...
got you all boned up for
yeah,
Mayan temples,
yeah,
huh?
exactly. So recently, archaeologists uncovered a 1,500-year-old Mayan altar, and the carved limestone altar is 4.8 feet by 3.9 feet and was found in the jungle forest of Piton in Guatemala. And this is an actual photo of them finding it in that cave. This is... Basically, the site that they found it is this ancient site called La Corona. It's a rural city instrumental in the ancient expansion of the Mayan people, and also very famously, where the end times calendar was found. The one that everybody believed that December 21st, 2012 was going to be the end of the world, and it just so happened that's just as far as the Mayans were able to fit on that calendar. Like, it's just their calendar ended.
Were you ever convinced, Jeff?
No, hell no.
Hell no.
Hell no.
That was ridiculous.
I mean, come on. I lived through Y2K, too. I was never convinced about that.
I did, though, make the purchase of a Jeep Wrangler around that time, just in case the apocalypse started happening.
Just in
and
case.
Also, it was a Jeep, so,
yeah.
You can't go wrong.
Yeah. So, I mean... We've been excavating this area for a very long time because it's kind of like, it's a rural area. It wasn't like a palace or anything, but it was in between a lot of the major cities of that ancient people. So it had a lot to do with it. A lot of people would pass through there. There were, celebrations there, that kind of thing. So to find an altar this big and this intact, is very, very rare and very, very cool. This altar actually displays an image of a previously unknown king. His name is Chaktuk Itchak, carrying a double-headed serpent effigy from which the site's patron gods emerge. I have a really good photo of the altar right here, which is really neat.
Cool.
The discovery of this altar presents new evidence for how the powerful Canul dynasty began its 2-century domination of much of the lowland of the Maya region. Now, if you're a fan of Ancient Aliens or anything, you might have heard of the Canul dynasty. They are referred to as the Snake Kings. Dr. Marcelo A. Canuto, who's the director of the Middle American Research Institute at Tulane University and the co-director of the La Corona Regional Archaeological Project, said the discovery allows us to identify an entirely new king of La Corona who apparently had close political ties with the capital of the Canal Kingdom, which is pronounced Dizbanche, and with the nearby city of El Peru, Huaca.
A lot of hard words for you today, Jeff. But you're doing a good job, Jeff.
Thank you. I'm trying. I
could tell.
So I thought that was really cool. We find this new altar, and not only is it this altar that we've never seen before and it's very intact, it's talking about a brand new king that we never even knew existed. So it gives us more lineage in that ancient people, which is really, really interesting. Then, on top of that, new evidence has been found that there has been a big cat trade between a lot of these ancient people, which we always suspected, but now thanks to DNA sequencing and different stuff that they've been doing, they have confirmed it, which is really cool. Again, let me just bring up Tomb Raider again, which was interesting. Before I read this article, I'm playing the game, and you go to these different little towns, and you had to fight jaguars in the jungle, but there are jaguars in cages, and I was like, did they keep jaguars in cages? Like, why? I never heard of that. Did they really do that? And then literally we're finding out that that's the truth.
Yeah, if you can imagine, like this is a long, long time ago, way before like the regular domesticated house cat existed that we know today. This was when they were first domesticating cats, and there were so many different varieties of cats, especially between ancient kingdoms.
Yep.
I'm sure cat trade was awesome. It's like, here's this weird fucking looking blue thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
And they're like, check out this badass, miniature black jaguar thing. It'll tear people up. It's awesome.
And that's the thing is it wasn't
I'd
just...
make a great cat salesman, by the way.
You do. I would buy a cat from you. But that's the thing is it wasn't just to own as a symbol of wealth. It also was for sacrifice. The apex predator sacrifices within the Teotihuacan pyramids represented the culmination of a state ritualization process that entailed the effective physical and symbolic manipulation of key symbols in the area. The remains of these carnivores that we've found, including golden eagles, pumas, jaguars, wolves, and rattlesnakes, help to establish this rich zooarchaeological and isotopic baseline, which we're able to take from their bones, from their remains, and then figure out, did they actually originate in this area, or were they transported to this area?
Interesting.
And we can also find out what they were eating. They performed stable isotope analysis on both the bone and teeth from puma and jaguar and other identified fields, along with deer, owl, and spoonbill, and even crocodile, to determine the diet and the geographical origin. And they actually found that there was levels of C4 intake in these bones that was indicative of them being in captive breeding, because the way that these people, this is how cool science is, they can tell by the nutrients that are left in the bone marrow, were they only eating food that they were hunting and catching themselves, or were they being fed meat in a cage?
Weird.
Yeah, because that
Wow.
meat was either being processed or it was different meat than, like, a big cat in a cage was getting fed meats probably that they couldn't catch.
Probably a
know.
variety of meats.
Yeah.
Which is not likely for, a cat hunting probably the same thing over and over again.
Exactly.
In the jungle.
Exactly. These findings confirm that previous research showing that Mesoamerican cultures kept wild animals in captivity for ritual purposes and reveal that animal trade networks across the ancient lands were more extensive than we ever thought. And Dr. Sugiyama says that encoded into the bones of jaguars and pumas at the Maya site of Copan was evidence of both captivity and of expansive trade networks, trading ritualized carnivores across the dynamic landscape. And that's what's really interesting is that this was revered. It wasn't like, again, it wasn't like the king would own a puma and it's like, haha, look at my puma or my tiger or whatever.
Any of it was for pest control? It must have been, right?
No, I think a lot of it was for, like,
You don't
it
think
was.
they had food stores with rats getting in that shit and it's like, well, we better keep a cat around.
Yeah, but they're not keeping these around. These are much more revered. They're not putting this to work. They're either putting it on display or killing it on display, because then the god looks favorably on you because you are killing an apex predator on the altar, on that god's altar, like
Weird.
at the top of one of those Mayan pyramids or
Yeah.
whatever. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy stuff, but it's cool that, like, we're still learning about these
Yeah.
cultures still today in 2018.
I always think of like what we will know 100 years from now.
Right?
It's insane.
Yeah.
We're constantly filling in blanks, and the blanks are vast.
They really, really are.